lot of it has to do with insecurity on both sides, because when you get into a relationship, you have insecurities because the more you care about it, the more you fear about things going wrong. And the way that he portrayed our fights in this relationship was he just used it completely unrelated screenshots without anybody's consent, put our screenshots of our conversation and his video out of context to make it look like she's this fucking crazy bitch, which she's not. And I fucking tell you, I've been in a fuck ton of relationships in the last 10 years. I have a pretty bad record of breaking up with girls. I will not stop to break up with a girl if I'm unhappy. I've done it enough. I mean, it's just frustrating to see that. And like, gosh, fucking, anyways, the thing is, we had agreed on a time in which of which he would come to pick up. Okay, let me refresh things a little bit. We had a talk on Skype or on FaceTime for like an hour after he uploaded the "My Roommate Kicked Me Out" video, which I was like, that's fucked up. That you portrayed it that way when it was clearly not that way, and he agreed to it. He's like, well, what do you want me to do to fix it? And so I went on a 3-week trip to Washington to see my brother because some shit was happening. And before I left, I told Edwin, I was like, hey, I can let you pick up your stuff. I'm going to be out of town. We can arrange a time for you to pick up your stuff when you get back. When I get back. And he was like, okay, cool, sounds good. Literally the day I get to Washington, I have Garrett, who's here with me, house sitting for me, who says that Mina and Edwin are trying to get into the house. Fortunately, I had the locks changed because I felt like this was going to happen, because sleazy things like this happen. So, of course, Garrett's in here, I'm in Washington, he's like, yo, Edwin and Mina are trying to get into the apartment right now, what should I do? And I was like, I don't fucking know. Anyways, Garrett ends up calling them out for it, and they're like, oh, we were just testing to see if the locks worked, whatever. This was already over a month after the situation when Edwin had already abandoned everything. We had agreed on a time for him to come and pick up his stuff, and was he just expecting to go into my apartment while I was gone? He did not pay the full rent the month beforehand. He had no right to be in this apartment. He left it on his own terms. Just testing the locks. And the interesting thing about the whole situation is that he made a vlog where he's coming back to downtown and he's like, oh, it feels so nostalgic, whatever, but he failed to mention that he was coming back to get his stuff, which was also sleazy. I'm glad that didn't fit your story. So anyways, we find out, Garrett calls him out on a comment, and Garrett was like, if I knew you were going to be there, I would have let you know. Well, of course you did. You expected to come in and have nobody know. I have a bunch of witnesses outside that saw you and Mina come inside. I have Garrett, who was on the other side of the door. You wanted to get into the apartment without anybody knowing and take your stuff and leave. That's not okay. Ooh, I'm thirsty. Anyhow, the situation is also complicated because Mina and I dated for 2 weeks, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, about over a year ago. And the reason it's complicated is because after we broke up, I was with Dasha, and so Dasha and Mina didn't get along very well. La-di-da-di-da. I mean, you kind of expect that, right? When you date a girl, or when you're dating a significant other, the ex-significant other, they're gonna not like each other most of the time. Not all the time. But, anyways, so there's a couple months of like shade getting thrown back and forth between them, and I go to Ohio for Christmas, and at this point, Dasha and Mina are actually kind of friendly. They're talking and stuff, whatever. Dasha ends up asking me about like my relationship with Mina and why we broke up, and I I explained to her why it ended up that way. I ended up apologizing to Mina with the way that I treated her when we broke up. I was crying. I was crying in front of Mina, telling her I felt fucked up about all of that.